Hey, Mr. Retro here, and I am going to start a kind of a crafty project. Now, the story behind this project is I collect games, and for PlayStation 2 games, you'll see that they have memory card slots built in to the case. Now that's great if you only, use a memory card for that one game. But with memory cards, they can hold lots of information. So I have memory cards. I got a bunch that are first party ones like this, and they all have the same size, same dimensions, but I don't want to have to hunt and find where all of these are in which cases. So what I want to do is I want to build my own storage case for these memory cards. So what we're going to do is we are going to try to do that today. So I'm going to take some dimensions off of this case. I just picked Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 because it's one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z games for the PlayStation 2. It's a lot of good gameplay right here. Lots of good gameplay. And so I have some crafty stuff here. I've got some little like 1/2-inch plywood. Got an extra piece over there for in case I have any mess ups. Some foam to hold the cards. Some little material. I don't even know what this is. I just went to the crafty part of it's a little felt. There we go. It's felt. Went to the crafty spot in Walmart and got some stuff. Went to my local craft store. Magnetic tape. That'll be how we close it. Some sanding blocks and some little sanding pad to make sure everything is nice and smooth. X-Acto knife to make sure we cut everything. These little wood chipping tools because I want to make sure everything's nice and flush. Some hinges. Let's see, we've got some black spray paint and some spray adhesive to make sure everything looks nice. So my goal is to make all of this kind of look like a PlayStation 2, the case. So it's going to be a nice flat matte color, and then I'm going to paint on the PS2 logo on the front, and it's going to hold all of my memory cards. So I will show you guys everything in update form. Unfortunately, I don't have the capability to do like time lapses and stuff like that, but I will show you guys everything in little updates. So stay tuned. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to measure the size of the case. So my plan is to make sure that this storage case for the memory cards is the same height and the same depth as the PlayStation 2 cases, because I want it to fit where my games are. How thick it is doesn't really matter. In fact, if it's pretty thick, it's not going to be a big deal, but it just needs to be the same height and the same depth as it fits inside of my media cases for all my video games. So we're just gonna get a pretty good outline of where I can make some cuts. Oh, let me do that better. So I'm not a super crafty person, but I feel like this is sensible enough that I think I can do, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool once I get it all the way done. So that's one side. Now I have to do another. So I will line this up next to it so I can get. We're trying not to waste too much material on building this. I'm trying to stay as thrifty as I can. Now I'm being a little general with these measurements because sanding them down will make them about the same size. So that's pretty good there. So when I do this, there has to be some spaces in between to give it that thickness. So, but it still has to be this height. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball an amount that I think will be okay, because really these game cards aren't terribly thick, and the foam that I have over here is just going to hold it in place, so it's going to be about the same thickness after I layer it. So as long as it's thicker than this, it should be okay, and those sides are going to fit on top, so I don't have to worry about losing any material as it sets down. So if I set it on the side, I would lose about ½ an inch of material. So what I'm going to do is just give myself about an inch, eyeball an inch, but right there. Just go straight down. And when I make my cut across here, it'll just connect over. And then I'll do another one after I do this one. So when I make my cuts, I'll cut this, and then I'll just retrace it over onto this extra, and then make another cut, and it should be all good. Now, the biggest thing about this is making sure that it opens and closes securely. So I have this magnetic tape, and it's sticky on the bottom, but I have Gorilla Glue, nice Gorilla Glue that we're going to use to bond everything. I just wanted to try this stuff out. I've used it before on other things, so I'm just gonna see what it works on, or see how it works on this project. So yeah, now after I get these sides, then I have to figure out how much I need for the depth, or what you'd call it, the width of this shape here after I put it on there. So I'm gonna go make these cuts, and I'll be back in a second, so stay tuned. So I've made my cuts, and as you can see, they're all pretty rough, but pretty much the basic idea is just to get these just to fit like this and like this with the top up here. So after I get everything sanded and make sure it's all nice and even and all these really rough edges are taken care of, we can go ahead and start mocking up paint and mocking up the inside. So what I was thinking is that since this box is kind of deep with just kind of a no depth to the lid, what I might do, if I can, is glue it all together first, let that set, and then just cut halfway. I might do that. I'm not sure if I will, but if I do, you'll see that happen, and hopefully it doesn't. These are really small, so I don't want to break anything too much without having to repair some stuff. So yeah, this is just a rough cuts with the jigsaw, things like that. So again, I'm not great at this, but it's just for me to try out a hobby. Now I'm going to use these sanding blocks. This sanding block is real rough, so I'm going to use that to get started, and this is real fine for the little corners and stuff I'll get. After I get everything sanded, I'll show it to you guys, make sure it's all nice and neat, and yeah, more work. Okay, so these are all sanded up, and they're still a little rough, a little uneven, but I think they're all going to work with some force and lots of glue. So I'm going to go ahead and glue up these pieces in the way that I need to have them. I've decided I'm not going to do the whole cut through the middle thing. Too much work. Too much for this project. But I'm going to go ahead and arrange these pieces, get them all glued up, and I'll let you guys see the next part. But before I do that, I just want to make sure you guys understand that this is going to go like this. And you can kind of see they're a little uneven, but we'll get that. We'll make it work. And it'll all kind of fit together like this, and then this shape will have some fill in here with some felt and the foam to hold the memory cards in place. So this will probably hold about 4 memory cards, maybe more if I can slide them in this way and this way, but we'll see what works. So on to the next step. Okay, so I have everything sanded down again. I went and used my electric sander to really wear down some extra on each side, so this should fit a little bit better. Now on this Gorilla Glue, it says to damp one side, that you apply this and then apply this to the other side. So how this is gonna go is I'm gonna do a corner at a time. So I'm gonna have a cup of water here. I'm going to dab my finger in it and just run it along here just to get this damp. Not enough to really soak it. And then I'm going to just tap this where I see, so I can see if there's a wet spot. Nope, no wet spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a little line so I know where to glue from. It doesn't have to be exact, just along that edge. So now I'm going to add some glue, and after I add all the glue, I'm going to put everything down. I'm not going to glue the top on, but I'll put it down and then put some heavy weight on it to secure it, and then we have to let it dry for a while. So this stuff comes out really, really easily. So if you're using Gorilla Glue, just understand it comes out pretty easy. So I'm going to set it there. Now it's going to float for a second. And any excess, that's fine, I can chip it off later. But I do want it to get flush, flat with the sides. So let's add this over there. Now, I've never used Gorilla Glue, especially like this, on wood. So this is kind of an experiment to see how well this does. Now I'm going to do this corner here. And see how I have a kind of an imperfection in the wood right here? That's going to go on the inside, or I can cover it up a little bit. Now I'm just going to eyeball this. Put a little bit here. Now this all doesn't have to be super exact, but I would like it to be pretty close. That way I don't have to do any extra funny stuff to it later. Still looking pretty good. I'd like to get all these sides lined up before it dries or starts to dry. The directions say it takes about an hour to 2 hours to set up, which is fine. I can leave this going overnight so it makes a good secure bond. And then tomorrow I'll finish the sanding. Well, I'll finish chipping away and sanding everything down smooth and all that fun little stuff to make sure that this looks okay. So I'm just kind of wiping any excess off onto the sides, because again, I'll just chip it off if I need to. So it's going to look a little uneven now. As you can see, like this juts out a little bit. Not worried about that too much. My electric sander does a lot better than I thought it would, so it should be okay. Put a little bit of glue here. And here. So Gorilla Glue has a weird consistency. If you've ever used it before, let me know and share any tips or tricks you have, and that way when I want to do another project like this, I know better. Okay, that looks halfway decent. So we're going to put this on there, make sure everything's nice and flush, nice and flat on the sides. Should be pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is only going to hold memory cards. So I'm going to go ahead and put a weight on this, and we're going to let this dry for about 2 hours, and then I will get back to you. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is all glued up. Now it's really rough still, very uneven. I'm going to take my sander and sand everything as even as I can, straighten out some parts, and maybe get some pieces of wood to glue in to fill in some of these gaps. But other than that, the basic shape is coming along pretty nicely. There's some good edges here that are nice and flat, and there's some kind of not so good edges, but I'm going to see if I can take care of those with sanding. The inside doesn't have to be perfectly square just because it's going to hold the memory cards, but I'd like the outside to be as square as possible to make sure we fit the cover nicely. Now, one of the biggest things is after I get this all sanded, I'm not going to do the inside yet. I will spray paint everything first, even these hinges that I got, because they're gold right now and I'd rather them be black. So after I get everything painted and sanded, then I will hit you guys back up. But just wanted to let you guys know that this does not have to be perfectly square on the inside. The outside should be to match up with the game size, the game cart size as much as possible. This is turning out to be just like a hair taller than a game case, but it should be okay after I sand it down. But yeah, I'm gonna sand, get everything nice and square on the outside, and get this thing ready for paint, and I'll get you guys caught up after I get everything painted. So stay tuned. Alright, so all my sanding is pretty much done. I might go over with a little sanding pad and make sure all the edges are very nice. I've evened out the box a lot, sanding and putting in some filler pieces. As you can see here, I put in a lot of filler pieces and glued it over, so it's a little bit more square. It's still a little lopsided, but it should work. Also, the top, I decided to round the corners a lot, so you can kind of see how that is rounded over, and I did it on every edge. Then when I did that, I decided that I should do it on the bottom side of this so it kind of matches, because if you look at actual game cart, it's got a nice rounded edge to it. It's not exactly square or sharp. It's nice and rounded. So I decided to kind of go for that look. So I'm gonna go and get this painted up, and I will show it right back to you guys. Stay tuned. So I got these painted up, and I kind of sanded and rounded over the corners a little bit, like I said before, and I think that really helped give the look. Now, this paint didn't quite come out as well as I thought it would. It kind of pooled in places, and it's still a little sticky, but I think it'll be okay. The next thing I have to do is I'm going to line the inside first with a little bit of black felt. So this felt right here. So I'm just going to line the inside, and I will cut this to fit here, and then it'll be kind of the back here. One of the reasons why I want to put this felt in there is it'll make it look a little nicer and kind of hide some of the imperfections down here. When I do this, I'm thinking of doing the sides too, but I'm afraid that might take up too much room, so I'll probably just end up doing the bottom. Now, to adhere this, I have a spray adhesive. It is Loctite spray adhesive. Again, I'm just trying this out, seeing how it works. Should be okay. So yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll jump to me getting this all done in this part right here. We'll jump to the next step. Okay, so felt's all in, the glue's still drying, but while this is drying, I'm gonna go ahead and get the foam ready. So this foam is going to insert in here like this, and it's going to act as I'm going to layer it first of all, and it's going to act as a way to hold these memory cards in there. So it's a soft cushion area, and that these are just going to kind of press down in. Now I have a few pieces of this foam, but I'll probably stack it 2 to 3 high to make sure that it fits very nicely. I think 2 might work with how thick these memory cards are. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next, but I just wanted to show you guys how that comes along, and that hides so much of it, and it's going to be a nice soft surface that after I push this through the foam, how it's going to land there. Now I have to kind of figure out how I'm going to arrange these. Arranging them like this I might be able to fit more while having enough of a gap to make it look nice. So I could probably fit 1, 2, 3, and then maybe 2 more, so 5 total, which is a lot considering the fact that I would have to have 5 separate game cases. But again, this is just a fun little project to do. If I ever get maybe some better tools, or maybe a 3D printer, maybe I can come up with something a little bit lighter, a little bit more spacious, something closer to a game case, but we'll kind of see if that ever happens. But for right now, I think this is going to work just fine. Before I go, I wanted to show you, so I used Gorilla Glue to glue the pieces of wood together, and it is working awesome. Like, it would take a lot of force to kind of bust these things loose. But I have a piece of what the Gorilla Glue looks like dried, and I've never used this before, but it sets up like a foam, and then it becomes like rock hard. Now it does have a sort of squishiness to it kind of underneath, but this outer shell is super hard. But you can see all these little air bubbles. And so just leaving it to rise by itself, you get this. It kind of looks like just like a airy peanut brittle, or just like a really dense foam, but it's really light and it's super strong, and I can see why Gorilla Glue works so well. But yeah, I just thought that'd be interesting to show you guys what Gorilla Glue looks like just all by itself when it's all dried. It kind of expands, which, knowing that now, next time I do a project working with Gorilla Glue, I will take that into account. But it seems to work. It holds everything fine. There are no nails in this, no natural wood glue or anything like that. This is just Gorilla Glue, and it's holding up pretty well. I even use Gorilla Glue to help fill in some places, but with the black spray paint, kind of hides most of that. So let's jump to adding the foam. So I have the foam insert kind of drying right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this magnet tape to line the outside here, I think will be what I do, and then I will do the opposite side on the lid. And I think it will just lay flat. It does stick. I might add some glue on there and just kind of press it flat now, but this tape is pretty sticky by itself, so it might adhere to it. And I don't know if I want to go all the way from the top to the bottom, but obviously I'll have to cut this to fit. This sticky tape is magnetic, so it should hold against the other side once it's on there, but I might have to glue that on there because I don't think it's going to stick too much. But once I get this done and I have the foam inserts done, I will show you the update. Okay, so stay tuned for more progress while I try to see if I can get this to be looking nice. Yeah. So, I'm back, and this is it. This is a complete product. It's a little bit more rough than I would have liked, but it works. So I've got the hinges here. I decided to leave them gold just to save some time, but it does open and close. The magnet strips here on the sides don't really hold up as well as I would have liked them to, but this is going to get sandwiched in my media shelf anyway. But they do hold memory cards, so you just place them in here and just kind of push them in. So, and then they stay in pretty well. So, let's go ahead and throw in some of my other ones. These are kind of tight fitting, but it should hold them quite nicely. So yeah, that is my completed PS2 memory card storage case, and yeah, I think it'll work for me as it is right now. In the future I'll probably update it, and maybe I could make it out of some better materials, you know, refine my craftsmanship a little bit better and make a better case in general. So yeah, so this is my entire design. If you have any suggestions or ideas for even better designs, go ahead and let me know. But there it is. If you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. If you like this video, please give it a like. I also do some other videos, unboxings of different video games, and I also have some gameplays on my channel. So if you like any of that, make sure you subscribe. My Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook handles will all be down in the description below. Please follow me on those platforms as well, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.